The road to 2027 is very shaky and very narrow. It is getting narrower both to the president and the opposition. The president is really burning the midnight oil to ensure that he gets re-elected. He's looking for coalitions and handshakes here and there. He understands very well that in the midst of this, Kenyans have rebelled because there are promises that were unkept. The opposition on the other side are really grappling with just one problem. Will they unite from this moment till 2027? That is the biggest challenge that they have. And the man who has poised himself to lead the opposition is already finding it difficult because it is not very easy to put together all the different interests with supremacy kind of minds. Rigathi Gachagua is the man who has said that he wants to ensure that he unites all the heads that have got a common interest to oust William Samoei to come 2027 because he harbors a revenge mission after helping William Ruto, he says. Then William Ruto decided to turn against him. He calls it betrayal, and he has decided that William Ruto must also face the very fate that he subjected Rigathi Gachagua to. Now, Rigathi Gachagua has already invited Kalonzo, Wetangula, Martha Karua, Eugene, and Natembeya, and they are boarding. When he realized that Fred Okeng Matiang'i was to come, he first declared that Fred Okeng Matiang'i is also on board. They will try and unite their heads just to find out how they can get just one presidential candidate by 2026 to face William Ruto. So it is said he organized for some dinner for the very leaders of like-minded, but that was not a very easy task. And it is reported that Fred Matiang'i snubbed that invitation. He never attended that meeting. This dinner was organized in Karen, Rigathi Gachagua's home. And I want us to go straight to this story because it's going to give us an insight of just how narrow, just how difficult, just how thorny and shaky the road and the journey towards 2027 is gonna be. It is written, Matiang'i snubs Gachagua's dinner, and it goes ahead to say that a high-stake dinner. First of all, the Standard is reporting that Gachagua left hanging, and then they continue to say a high-stakes dinner hosted by former Deputy Rigathi Gachagua at his current home ended in an embarrassment after former CS Fred Matiang'i failed to show up. Meant to seal a 2027 political pact, the evening saw key allies gather, food served, and calls go unanswered. Sources say former President Uhuru Kenyatta advised Matiang'i to skip the event, leaving Gachagua with a cold buffet, anxious guests, and a deal that never happened, deepening rifts ahead of 2027. I looked at this title and I was thinking, could they started trying to toe the line because recently they have run at loggerheads with the government and they're being threatened with withdrawing withdrawal of their licenses. So I was like, are they trying to toe the line? But back to the story, Rigathi Gachagua is a man on a mission, and I've always mentioned here that a man on a mission needs no permission. Rigathi Gachagua is a go-getter, and he has wrestled that support base with Uhuru Kenyatta. At some point, Uhuru had an upper hand, the lion's share of the votes in Mount Kenya. But after Rigathi Gachagua was impeached, he played that sympathy card and he got it right. And Rigathi organized for a dinner buffet, and he invited, I believe, all the senators from Mount Kenya and all the opposition leaders. And I think Rigathi Gachagua was targeting Fred Matiang'i because at least he has had a chance of meeting all the other opposition candidates, including the Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya. During the launch of Martha Karua's party, the People's Liberation Party, all of them were there, but he's never had a chance to meet Fred King Matiang'i. And I think he wanted to use that occasion to welcome him, to show him that they are together, because immediately Rigathi Gachagua endorsed Kalonzo Musyoka as their candidate. Uhuru Kenyatta came up with the name Fred Matiang'i, a move that many thought was meant to create confusion. So Gachagua wanted to beat them in their own game, telling them, come on board if you know that we will share the same interest, that our common enemy is William Samoei Ruto. But then when I watched and I read that story, I was like, what I've been saying is true. That if those people don't stick together, they're going to give William Ruto a very easy win. Kindly subscribe to our channel if you're watching us for the first time and click the notification bell. Don't forget to like and share our videos. I want to thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to draw certain conclusions from the story that we're given. It's almost self-explanatory. It doesn't need any rocket science. But immediately, Uhuru Kenyatta, rather the Jubilee Party, declared their support for Fred Matiang'i, I got alarmed and I started, just thinking of the main intention. What was in Uhuru's mind? Because for over 2 years, William Ruto was wrestling the Jubilee Party from Uhuru Kenyatta. And Sabina Chege and Kanini Kega were the leaders who were fronted to frustrate Uhuru Kenyatta. And after the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, all of a sudden, William Ruto, through the courts, returned the party to Uhuru Kenyatta. And then Uhuru, realizing that Rigathi Gachagua has endorsed Kalonzo, they endorse Fred Matiang'i. And this caught my attention. And I'm beginning to conclude that Uhuru has never forgiven Rigathi Gachagua. He has never. And there is that supremacy battle between them. Who is going to control Mount Kenya? Because there can never be two bulls in the same shed, just one of them. So Uhuru still harbors this revenge mission against Gachagua. You remember how Gachagua went after the children, the mother, all this. And I think Uhuru believes that Gachagua, as a brother, should have taken a very keen interest to shield and to protect him. Because Gachagua was being used. He has said that, it is William Ruto who used to write to us what to say. He told me to say shareholders and all this. He told me to say that Uhuru and Raila were not fit to hold any office. So as he was doing this, he was busy protecting his Kalenjin leaders. Some of them were even retrieved from jail. You remember the cases like Kimarora and Boret, all those people, Henry Rotich, Ruto used to protect his people. And even Alfred Keter, who is a strong critic of William Ruto, it is only recently after Gen Z's protest that they tried frustrating him. But William Ruto has a soft landing for the leaders, including opposition leaders from Rift Valley. So Uhuru has never forgiven Rigathi Gachagua. Number two, Uhuru does not trust Gachagua. That is why he does not want Fred Matiang'i. If it is true that Uhuru is the one who advised Fred Matiang'i not to attend that buffet, that dinner, it means he doesn't trust Rigathi. Because why would he block Matiang'i from attending such a dinner that is meant to solidify, a strong support base, a force to reckon with? He feels that it's too early and he does not trust what Rigathi Gachagua is going to tell Fred Matiang'i. And if I were Uhuru Kenyatta, I would allow Fred Matiang'i to go there. Then Fred will tell me what Rigathi is saying. But one thing that Rigathi Fred King Matiang'i must fight is one. Fredo King Matiang'i must now come out as an independent leader, devoid of this control from a former president. Because many people from some quarters will now look at it as if Uhuru Kenyatta has refused to retire. He endorsed Raila. Raila was not lucky to be pronounced as the winner. Now he's endorsing Fredo King Matiang'i. And many would feel that he wants this legacy. He wants to still rule from behind. If Fred Matiang'i is still listening to Uhuru, it was Uhuru's party. Of course, we've never seen Uhuru come out and talk. But in politics, we listen to what they are not saying. We don't listen to what they are saying. And so people are going to, to look at Fred King Matiang'i and brand him as Uhuru project. And if you are tagged as a project, that can even jeopardize your chances, even if you are a serious contender. If we continue reading and listening to people telling us that Uhuru said and Matiang'i listened, it is going to be very difficult for Fred Okengo. We want someone who is free because there is no need fighting William Ruto. Then when we get someone, he's a person who's being controlled. The only project we want as Kenyans is Project Wananchi. So Fred Okengo must be very, very careful. And we are soon concluding that Uhuru and Matiang'i are working for William Ruto. And I will tell you why. The only way to defeat William Ruto, and I say the only, underline this, is to unite as opposition leaders. We've had this before in the history of the country. After repealing of Section 2, where we now allowed multipartism, Moi, the former president, the late President Daniel Moi, continued ruling because the opposition was disintegrated for the Kenya, for the Sili, for the people, DP and all that. They failed to unite. So if the opposition is going to unite and we still have other people running on their own, that is the surest way of giving William Ruto victory. If Fred Okengo is not going to unite with the fellow opposition leaders and he goes it alone, we are going to conclude that he's only there for selfish gain, either to deny someone 50 plus 1 or just to ensure that he divides the opposition votes and William Ruto gets his all. We will soon conclude. So this will work in favor of William Ruto. And Fred Okengo must be very careful, and I repeat. If he wants to rule this country, Uhuru had ruled for 2 terms and he's now resting at home. It is not bad if he goes to Uhuru Kenyatta as an elder now, just trying to ask him, what do we do? But if we are listening and getting headlines that Uhuru is still the one that is controlling Fred Matiang'i, no. As a man, as a leader, he needs to rise up. For Rigathi Gachagua, he will soon realize that gathering the heads with different political interests is not very easy. Kalonzo is not going to back anybody. And Kalonzo cannot work under Matiang'i. It's going to take some serious negotiations for him to do that. Martha Karua might not work under Matiang'i. And the way Matiang'i has come with that force, it seems he's not going to work under any person. And the end result will be everyone is going to contest on their own. Or William Ruto is going to get some of them. Our main and a very deliberate effort and intention should be how to kick out the Kenya Kwanza team from power. Because if we're going to have the Kenya Kwanza as a party, a ruling party in 2020, from 2028 to 2032, it is going to be very, very unfortunate for us as a country. You can imagine the way William Ruto is ruling with iron fist, and he still needs our support. What will happen if William Ruto decides that now I no longer need you, this is my second term? Ataharibu nchi, atasema ule mwingine atakuja shauri yake, and people will really suffer in the very cruel hands with the dictatorial tendencies. William Ruto still surrounded with people like Murkomen, Oscar Sudi, Junet Mohammed, people like Farah Malim with their statements. People still make pronouncements that William Ruto cannot be defeated. Kama unaongea mayo unafaa kupigwa. You can imagine if this is happening in the second term, in the first term, what will happen in the second term? But that's what I'm saying, that it's not, if you ask me, we really, William Ruto as a person, we like him. He's a very jovial man, making jokes here, reading Bibles. But as a president, no. Amejaribu. Ni kama mtu ambaye ametoka lower class na unataka kumfanyisha mtihani ya upper class. Ameshindwa. If this is what he calls his best, because I have heard him, say that he understands the test, anaelewa hii mtihani. And then he tells us about fertilizer, and we understand that fertilizers that were given free of charge were sold to farmers. And a connect stima, he tells us that. So ladies and gentlemen, ameshindwa na hii kazi. Ameshindwa. Now, if there are people who still want to go and contest on their own, no, they are working for William Ruto. That is the bottom line. Working for William Ruto does not mean that you reject him in public. Unajifanya tu unaenda unasimama peke yako, and that is it. So I'm beginning to suspect Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm beginning to suspect Matiang'i. Don't get me wrong, if you're a supporter of Matiang'i, all I'm saying is that Matiang'i should stop just listening to Uhuru Kenyatta. He should go and mingle with the fellow opposition leaders. Then he knows what to do. I know Uhuru can support Matiang'i by maybe funds, making funds available, some pieces of advice, they work together. But this idea of trying to control, controlling Matiang'i, telling him go there, don't go there, is not really right. And if there is still going to be this very trivial supremacy battle between Uhuru Kenyatta and Rigathi Gachagua, then they are going to spoil a very golden opportunity for Kenyans to go forward and vote against this government. They need to tread very, very carefully, and they need to show us early enough the kind of walk and talk that they want. Because William Ruto is not going to rest until he disintegrates the opposition. Immediately William Ruto got to power, the first thing he did was to buy off opposition leaders. People like Jalango, Elisha, Gideon Ochanda, Paula Bor, they visited William Ruto in State House. And William Ruto was wrestling the Jubilee Party from Uhuru Kenyatta. He wanted to finish the opposition. He finished KANU. It is only realized that he realized that it's not very easy to finish the ODM party. Because with ODM, you buy leaders, but wananchi are not moving. So we really need to be very, very careful. The best way to give William Ruto a chance, the best way to support William Ruto is to pretend that you want to go it alone and you don't want to work with your team. So for Rigathi, he's really going to realize that it is not easy to lead these opposition leaders. They've got vested interests. Wengine wanaona muda unayoyoma. Somebody like Kalonzo, if he doesn't go for it now, in 2032, there are these millennials, people like Babu Owino, people like Ndindi Nyoro, people like Edwin Sifuna. They are going to go for it, and no one is going to tell them again, uachie huyu. Raila atakuwa ametoka, Ruto atakuwa ametoka. These young people are going to give people like Kalonzo and Mudavadi a run for their money. So it is Kalonzo's time. But if they so decide and Kalonzo says, okay, Kenya is bigger, there comes a time when Kenya is bigger, it's okay. But they should ensure that they play their cards well. If it is true that Rigathi organized for a party and calls went unanswered, Matiang'i never answered the calls, neither did he communicate. He simply declined to come. Those are signs of bad times ahead. I don't know what to think, but that is my take.